Hi everyone, my name is Aparina Bhatia, and today we're going to discuss how to add bracing in multiple ways. So there's an agenda right here available. So we're going to learn how to add horizontal bracing. We're going to add diagonal bracing, and we're going to add K bracing, MMB bracing, horizontal bracing with marker lines. And also I'll show you how to add diagonal bracing with marker lines along with furring. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm just going to go into my view here. So before we do any before we go into the panel properties of a panel, um, in order for us to do that, we need to have a panel created first, right? In order for us to go into the properties and add all these additional elements. So let's go ahead and select all of our walls. Go into our template map, ensure that it is selected, and we have our template assigned. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and quick create all of these. So as this is quick creating, we are going to learn how to add bracing with marker lines and within the properties. And if you add it with the properties, you can actually save it as part of your template as well. So let's get started with our horizontal bracing. There's two types of horizontal bracing you can add. So one would be split bracing or split blocking that you can break at every stud. And then another one is continuous blocking. So you create punch outs within the typical studs, and the bridging piece kind of goes continuous through there. So those are the two different types. So before we start creating bracing or bridging or blocking, it has multiple names. What we could do or we need to do is first thing is we have to import the families that we're going to be using for bracing. Okay, we're going to import the family that we want to use as the bridging member or the blocking member or the bracing member. And if you are creating a continuous one, then you need to make sure you also load in punch outs if you want to create punch outs throughout that line so that you can place your bridging member and your MEP services could also go through there. So let's let's create a quick copy of this wall here. Drop it down here, escape. And then for this wall, again, we're going to just quick create. And once we quick create, now we have both the walls available for us to add horizontals to. So let's go into 3D view for this wall here. And let's go ahead and add in our horizontal bracing. So let's go click on any of the members here. Let's go into properties. We'll go into miscellaneous. And then you'll see there's an option called horizontals here. So we're going to go ahead and hit edit beside that. And we can now add in horizontal bracing. So there's two options here. There's horizontal or diagonal. We are going to cover horizontal first, and we're going to be adding a continuous horizontal or bridging member now. So here you can specify your start point. So we have an object reference, offset from start, and then we have a secondary reference here, which is our endpoint for the member. So we're going to choose offset from end over there. So for this one, it's going to go from E1 to E2. If you wanted it to go like say from S4 to S7, you could do that as well. And you'll notice that the offset automatically adjusts on its own. So if you need to add it for like cabinets or something and you know exactly which studs the cabinets start and end on, you can choose those options for the stud number here. Next option we have is our angle. So the angle basically specifies how you want to rotate your member. So whether it's 0 degrees, 180 degrees, 90 degrees. If you want it facing up or down, accordingly, you will adjust the angle. And then over here, you have your vertical justification, which would be basically where are you specifying these offsets to? What's the dimension? So if you're specifying the dimension over here, is it to the top of the member, the middle of the member, or the bottom of the member? So here, that's basically what it is. So the top is where I want the dimensions to be, the ones I specify. And then over here, we have lateral justification. So lateral justification is within the panel. Where do you want the member to align? So I want it to align to structural center line so that the punch outs and everything will be also in the center line. Over here, we have an option of choosing our family for the bridging member. So we're going to choose 162T 125-33. And then that's the size we want to use for our bridging member. And then here you have a checkbox called apply material thickness. So apply material thickness basically means that when you're placing your horizontal, do you want it to consider the thickness of your studs, right? So when it's hitting the end stud, do you want it to be placed on the inner face? Then if yes, then it will follow the material thickness that you specified inside your template. You'll also notice that stagger offset is grayed out. And the reason for that is that we haven't split our horizontal studs. So our horizontal members basically. So stagger offset is set to 0. And it's also grayed out. So once we check that option on, this will get enabled, and I'll show you that next. Now we can also add in clips. So let's go ahead and check on insert clips and set up our clip settings. So if you wanted to add in any custom clips, we have another webinar where we discuss how to add in custom families into and use them with MWF. So you can go ahead and take a look at that if you wanted to add in a custom clip. By default, we give you this this one, which is the BIMSF clip, and it's 40 by 40 by 80 -1.4. You can choose what do you want to align the clip to. So right now we have a few options here. So I'm going to choose to align it to every vertical stud and vertical studs, repeating studs. So if there's back-to-back studs, I want to add it on both. And then I can also choose like the members of my openings, doors, and windows. Which member do I want to attach the clip to? So I chose the king stud here. And if you want to do jacks as well, then feel free to select it. And over here, you can choose where you want it to connect to for the stud. So whether you want it on the open side of the stud, like that. Let me just make that larger a little. Whether you want it on the open side of the stud like so, or you want it on the hard side, which is like that, on the flat side. And then same thing with the attachment side over here. It's basically for the member. Or the horizontal itself, like where do you want it to attach to? Okay, so I'm going to say hard side to hard side, and then I'm just going to add that setting. And once that setting's added, I'll go ahead and hit OK. So now I've added or inserted clips and set up the clips. I can also set up my punch. I want to set it up to punch holes wherever the horizontal is going through. So here I've already pre-set up a hole series, and I'm just going to select that one right there. So you'll see it says 4-inch slot hole. And then over here, you can see that you have an option to punch end members or not. So if you want to punch end members, have it checked on. If not, you can uncheck it. Okay, so I'm going to keep that on. And then you also have two options here, which is stop at kings and continue through openings. So stop at kings, what that does is if there's a king drawn on either side of the opening, it will basically stop at the king, and then it will continue from the second king onwards. So it won't have anything in the middle here. Continue through openings basically means even if there's a horizontal going over here, it will go through the opening and continue on. Okay, so those are the two options there. Now you have two options to place the horizontals. So first option is you can do it by ratio. Okay, you can specify how many number of horizontals you want to place, and you can say, okay, well, 25%, 50%, and 75% of the height, I want you to place a horizontal. In our case, I only want to place 2, and I can actually specify what percentage I want the at what percentage of the height I want the members to be placed. So what this means is if I have a 10-foot wall, it'll place it at 25% of the 10-foot wall, and then it'll place at 75% of the height of the 10-foot wall. Okay, but if it was actually a 20-foot wall, it will place it 25% of the height of the 20-foot wall, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can specify your percentages based on wall, but if you need it to be in a specific location, then you can uncheck ratio and just specify the values of the height. Okay, so again, I'll do 0.25 here, and I'll make this 0.75, and I'll go ahead and hit add. You also have an option to add it using spacing. So you could say that my first offset, which is going to be from the bottom of the panel, is 1 foot. And then your last offset is from the top of the panel. You can specify the value if you need to. If you leave it 0, then it won't actually set a last offset. And then you can specify your spacing in the middle. So it'll be after the first offset. It will consider the spacing. Okay. And then there's also horizontal extensions. So the horizontal extensions are typically like if you want your flange to go past multiple studs. So like if you have repeating studs or back-to-back studs or double studs, and you want the flanges for your member to extend all the way. So in MWF or in Revit, it will not show like it's doing just the flanges. It will just extend the entire member. But when you export it to Onyx, it will actually have it, it'll actually cut out that web portion. Okay. So that's basically what that is. I'm going to use offsets and we're not going to use extensions. And I'll just set this to 0.25 and I'll set this to 0.75 and I'll go ahead and hit update. Okay. So make sure you select the setting before you make any changes and then hit update so that it knows that that's the setting it needs to modify. So once we do all of that, we can go ahead and close and hit OK. And there you go. You can see that it adds a horizontal bracing member, and it adds a clip and a punch out all with one tool. All right. So that's how to add horizontal bracing from the panel properties. Now, what if you wanted to stagger your members, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match the properties of this to here. So select that wall, go ahead and match properties and match it over here and hit escape so that the horizontal settings just transfer through and I don't have to reset it up. Okay, and now what I can do is go into, select that wall, go into the 3D view, and we're going to go ahead into the properties. And inside the structural tab, you have an option called split horizontal studs. We're going to check that on. And over here in miscellaneous, we're going to go into horizontals and click the edit button here and select the setting we want to modify, which is this one. And now you'll notice that stagger offset is no longer grayed out. So we'll make it 2 inches over here for our stagger. And when we're staggering our studs, we might not need clips or holes. So because they are split at every stud, so really there's no requirement for a punch out. So we'll stagger 2 inches, we'll get rid of the clips and the punch holes, and we'll go ahead and hit update. Okay, so that's basically that. And I will also make it E2 and hit update. But yeah, that's basically what it is. And we'll go ahead and hit close and hit OK. And you'll notice that our horizontals are split and staggered. Okay. Next option we have is diagonal bracing. So there's two ways to add it through properties. I'll just show you one of the ways here now. So we'll go into properties here. And again, we'll go into miscellaneous tab. And you have an option over here that's called within horizontal. So if you hit edit, you'll see there's a diagonal option here. So you can follow the same settings to create a diagonal bracing, except now you can specify an elevation. Okay, or we can go into bracing option over here and then select the edit button here. And we can click braces and add it through that. So we'll go ahead and say interior side. We'll choose our family that we want to use. So we'll use 162 T125. And this places the bracing at the edge of the panel, or the outer edge of the panel almost. Okay, and you can choose where you want the bracing to start and where you want it to end. So I wanted to go from E1 to E2. And then at those studs, at those respective studs, it's asking you for the elevation. So at E1, it's going to be at 0 feet. And then at E2, it's going to be at this height. Okay, so you can specify what height you want it to be at. For us, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it be starting at S3, go all the way to S8, and change the height at S3 to make it 2 feet. And at S8, we're going to have it go to 6 feet, or let's make it 7 feet. Okay, so this way, if you like have a staircase or something like that, and you need to add blocking or plate, blocking plate over there, maybe to support your railings and so on and so forth. I know for wood they do this a lot, but if you needed to do it for steel, there's an option too. This is the way you could do it as well. So I'm making it go from S3 to S8, and over here you can specify rotation for the member. I'm going to type in 270 or negative 180 actually. Let's try that. And then the interior to exterior justification is basically within the plan view of this. If you wanted to go towards the interior side, then you put a negative value. If you wanted to go towards the exterior side, then it will become a positive value. Okay, so if you're moving it this way towards the interior side, it's a negative value. Towards the exterior side, it's a positive value. You also have your start and end extension. So if you wanted to extend the member out, you could have it be a positive value. If you wanted to do a cutback for the members, you can make it a negative value. You can also choose to add a plate. I'm not going to add a plate, but you can choose to add a plate inside and basically choose the thickness of the plate, the height and the width, also the end plate height and width. You can choose what the plate position is going to be in accordance with the diagonal. So the diagonal is going to be at the center of the plate, the plate is going to be at the center of the center point of the edge of the diagonal, or is the top left corner of the plate going to be aligned to the center of the diagonal, and so on and so forth. So you can choose your plate position. And if your plate is not locating itself accurately, you can always use the vertical and horizontal justification to adjust your start and end plate. Okay, so basically we're going to set it up this way and go ahead and hit add. And here you'll see we have our setting created. We'll go ahead and hit close and hit OK. and we'll go into 3D. So let's go to BX over here, and you'll see that it adds a member like so at the edge of the structural layer. Okay. So that's how you add a diagonal bracing through panel properties. Next option we have is cross bracing. So we can add cross bracing through miscellaneous as well. So let's go into properties. Let's go into miscellaneous, and let's go into bracing again and hit edit. And we're going to go into X brace at the top here. We can choose structural or non-structural bracing. I'm just going to place structural. You can choose which side of the panel you want it. I'm going to place it on the inside so we can see it on this side. And then you can choose your family again. So we're going to choose 162T125-33. Okay. You can specify if you want any number of screws. So I'm going to say 3 or 4. And then over here, you can choose which is the first stud you want the left end of it to be at, and then you select the second stud, which is the right end of the cross bracing. And then the top elevation and bottom elevation basically means, like, if you're going from E1 to E2, you're going to basically have it go from this bottom height to this top height, and both the edges for the bottom will be at the same height or same location. Both the edges at the top will be at the same location. So if you wanted to include, if you wanted to elevate it differently, you could go ahead and specify values there. So I wanted to go from E1 to E2, so it'll start from here and end there. And then, or if you wanted it to stop at S5, you have the option to do that too, if you only want to brace a specific section of the wall. You can also include cutouts. These are EPS voids, and they get placed on the outer face over here, and it also places a plate at the edge. So let's go ahead and include that cutout and hit add. You can also offset your cross braces based on how they are being placed. Okay, so we're going to add that in. We're going to go ahead and hit close and hit OK. And there you go. So you'll see that it actually adds like a little washer plate, and it adds a EPS void here for us to be able to place any anchors and so on and so forth. So that's basically how you add cross bracing. And again, it requires a little bit of playing around with. So we could have gotten this to show the way we want. So right now it's facing this way. So if we wanted it to be flipped the other way, we would need to quickly make that change inside the settings. Let's go ahead and go into properties, miscellaneous, bracing, X brace. There's no rotation option. Yeah, sorry, there's no rotation option. So we would actually have to place it on the outside and have it flip, basically. So you could do it that way and have it rotate and face the other way. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and discuss K-bracing. So again, I'll go to 3D view for this. We're going to place K-braces in this panel. So we're going to go ahead into our NWF, click on properties, and click on miscellaneous, and you'll see K-braces here, and hit edit. Okay. So now we can basically choose where we want to start our K-braces. But before we do all of this, we need to first create a K-brace pattern. So we're going to call it K-brace, or give it a name called K-brace 1. And we're going to go ahead and hit add over there. So once we do that, we can select that option, and then set it up as we need. So first, it's asking where do you want to place the leftmost brace. So we're going to start it at E1, and then you can choose how many sections you want. So this is currently one section. If I want two, I can do two. If I want three, I can do three or four. I'm just going to do two, and then I'm also going to have it be inverted. You can choose if you want to place diagonals or not, but I want it to be inverted so it kind of shows you the K brace name basically. And then over here, you can choose how you want to place the horizontal or where you want to place it. So if I say percentages, again, similar to our horizontals options, you have your percentage values here. So I want the horizontal to be at 50%. So that's where it will get placed. Okay. Or if you uncheck percentages, you can specify the height you need it to be at. Okay. So over here, you can choose how many braces you want. So I'm going to place two braces. So one will be inverted like this and one will be straight like so. Basically, I have an option to repeat this pattern. So either I just have it in bay, the first and the second bay, or I can have it repeat to end. So I'm going to repeat it to end so you guys can see what that looks like. And then we can choose where we want it to locate. I want it to be structural center line. And then I can choose the family for my diagonals. So here I'm going to choose my 162T125-33. And then over here for the horizontal member, we can choose our sizes again. I'm going to use BIMSF SSMA S 162 S125-33. And then over here, I have an option to place double horizontals or break horizontals. So every stud it will break, or you can choose to break it only on double studs. Okay. So I'm just going to use, I'm not going to choose any of these settings. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And then here, I can also specify cutbacks or clearances. So I can specify clearances from the track, clearance from the horizontal. So if I want to specify any values here, I can specify those from end studs or intermediate studs. So those are the intermediate studs in the middle. And then you have your diagonal extensions as well. So if you wanted to extend your diagonals out, you could specify the value for the left and the right. And also, if you wanted to have it cut back, you could specify a negative value. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and modify that setting right now so we can make sure that it is actually saved to that name. Okay, and then over here, again, you can place plates if you like, and you can specify your plates configuration. So if I hit insert plates, you can check out, you can select the location, choose insert, and choose which side it's on, your plate position, and your sizes. We're not going to place plates right now for K braces. We're just going to go ahead and continue on. So you can also specify your cutbacks for horizontal. So if you want them to be cut back only to the interior side of the stud, you have the option to do that. And then over here, you also have the option to modify brace attachments. Okay, so you can modify brace attachments by creating verticals, and you can choose it if you want to align it to verticals or have it placed on the center, or you want to place it at the horizontal. So you can choose where you want the top brace, top member, intersection members at the top or the bottom, and the bottom braces, where do you want the members to align to or attach to, basically. So once you set those up, you can just leave it, you can modify that setting, and then go ahead and hit close and hit OK. And as you can see, we have a very nice K-brace setups done, and then you can also see that it's repeating the pattern all the way to the end. The next option we have is our MMV bracing. So basically, we are going to go into 3D view again for this, and we are going to go ahead and go into our properties for the panel. And basically here, we are going to go to miscellaneous. And then here, we are going to go ahead and click on MMV braces. Okay, so we're going to create a new one. Give it a very creative name. So MMV brace 1 is what I'm going to call it. We're going to select that setting, and then we're going to choose our diagonal family size. So that's going to be 162T 125-33. And then over here, you can specify your clearance between diagonals. You can specify your clearance from tracks and horizontals. And you can specify your frame sections that higher than. So basically, some clients don't like to use an MMV brace unless their walls are taller than a specific height. So if your section is taller than a specific value, you can specify that value here. So like say if the wall is taller than 8 feet, I needed to add MMV braces as an example. So you'll type in 8 feet over there. Okay. And then you have your minimum and maximum angle over here in order for you to be able to place these members. You can also choose double start stud and double end stud, and accordingly it will adjust the brace if there was a double start stud or the double end stud. Okay. So basically we're gonna do that. And now that setting has all of this information added to it. Now you can choose where you want to add this brace. So I want to add it from E1 to S1. And then I'm going to also add it from S3 to S6, just to show you what the difference is. So this one's going only in the first bay. This one's going from S3 all the way to S6. So we'll go ahead and hit OK here, and then hit OK here. And here you'll notice that we have it from E1 to S1 over here. And then for the one that goes from S3 all the way to S6, you'll see that it's a continuous brace all the way across. And it's trying to create a massive MMV brace. Okay, so that's your M, and then your M, and then that's your V. Okay, so that's why it's called MMV bracing. The next option we have here is furring. So for furring, we are basically going to, again, go into our 3D view, and we want to add furring. So I've added JRunner families into this project just so I could show that. But if you want to load in another family for furring, you can feel free to add that in. So let's go into our properties again, and we're going to go to miscellaneous. We're going to click on furring, and then we're going to go ahead and hit edit over here. Okay. And we can go ahead and choose to enable to add furring over here. And again, we can choose which side we want it on, interior side here. I'm going to just place it on layer structural, and then you can choose your member here. So I'm going to use a JRunner, this guy here. Okay. And then you can choose your first offset. So from the bottom of the panel, you can choose your first offset. So if you want it to be 2 feet, you can have it be starting at 2 feet, and then you can specify your spacing for it. So from that 2 feet or from your first offset, it's gonna start your spacing. And the first offset is from the bottom of the panel. And then you have a start offset and an end offset. So basically, if you wanted to have your furring start short, like you don't want it to be all the way to the end of the panel, you want it to be cut back, then you can specify your offsets over here from the end of the panels as well. So from the start, which is the start of the panel, end is the end of the panel. You also have an interior to exterior justification to adjust where it's located in the width of the wall. So if it's a custom family and it's not placing correctly, you can adjust this value here. So if you're going from the interior to the exterior, it's a positive value. If you're going from the exterior to the interior, then it's a negative value. So if you're going towards the exterior, positive. If you're going towards, if you wanted to move it towards the interior, negative value. Okay. You'll also notice there is a door gap, window gap, and opening gap. So those values are basically like if there is a window or a door in this panel, you want to cut back the furring by a specific amount. So I'm going to just add in a window gap here and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to add in a 6-inch gap from the edges of the window. And basically, we also have an option to put extra members on openings. So around the opening, if you want, it will add the furring strap at the top and at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and do that. Flip is an option if you want to do, if it's placing it incorrectly, you can choose the flip option and I'll flip it over the other way. So that's basically it. We'll go ahead and hit close and hit OK. And you'll see that it's actually just placing the JRunner family like so. Okay. So it's placing that the family like that. And then if I place a window in here, see if I have a plain. There. Sure. Okay, I'll place that one in here. I think windows are turned off in this view. Yep, they are. Okay, and I'll just have it go up there. Okay, now I'm gonna regenerate this panel because we added a new window in here. So basically, you'll notice over here, it cut back. Let me show you from the front. It cut back the furring pieces. Okay, and it also placed our extra members or extra furring pieces over here as we had asked it to add those members at the header and the sill. This one is clashing because the window is actually not in its way, but it is the straps are kind of in its way. So that's the only reason that is clashing. If I make the window a little smaller, like 1200, put it so something like that and regenerate. I will show you something like that. Okay. You can also, like for furring, you can use like flat straps or you can use plates. You can, as long as you have the family for that and it's a structural framing family, you should be okay. And you should be able to add it as a furring member. Okay. So that's basically how to add all of these elements through properties. Now we want to add them also using marker lines, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first create a section over here. And I'm going to have that cut back to here, okay? And what I'm going to do is for this wall, let's go into 3D. So let's first show you how to add a diagonal, horizontal member using marker lines. So we're going to go ahead and select the panel member. We're going to go into MWF Advanced, and then we are going to go to markers and create marker lines. So before doing this whole process, what I typically like to do is I like to create additional line styles that are just for my marker lines so that I can create blocking configurations based on that and have those assigned to my blocking configurations. And the benefit of doing it that way is if you are cleaning out your project, you know that that line is actually being used for MWF purposes and it's not just hanging out there for fun, okay? So if you are doing QA/QC, at least you know that that line actually has meaning behind it. And also it will kind of remind you that you have to move it with your panel if your panels are moving as well, okay? So we'll go ahead and create horizontal marker lines. We're gonna choose regular spacing here. And we're going to choose number of lines. So I'm going to say I want 3 lines. Yeah, I want there to be 3. Yes, I'll want it to be 3 or actually I'll do 2, and then I'll just place one at 2 feet, and the next one I'll place it at 6 foot spacing. So basically one would be at 2 feet from the bottom, and the next will be at 8 feet from the bottom. Okay, so you'll see from the bottom or the top, you can specify that value. And then here we're going to choose what we want to assign to that line. So I want to assign blocking configurations. And here you'll see that I only have sample, but I want to create an actual blocking configuration for this purpose. So we're going to go into manage. And let me just bring that over. And over here, we're going to give it a new name or create a new one. So I'm just going to select sample here, just so we can see the settings, and just call this horizontal. Whoops. Horizontal. And we can specify the size, T125-33 bracket 33. Okay, and then I'm going to call it dash force end. Okay, so I'm going to create three types of that exact same bracing member, and I'll explain in a second why. Okay, so here we're going to choose 162T125-33 because that's the size we mentioned. And then over here, we are going to specify that this is a horizontal brace that we're adding. And we're going to choose the line style that we created for this. So I created a 0-0 horizontal bracing line style for that. So we're going to choose that line style. And then over here, we can specify the angle. So I'm going to make it 270. Okay, because I want it to be placed facing down. And then over here, our vertical justification, I'm going to specify top, and this is again the same thing, like wherever the line is located, that's going to be the top of the member. And then here we have lateral justification. So within the wall, where do you want it to be placed? I'm going to just say centered. Okay. And then you have also offsets from those locations. So wherever the line is, you can have it offset from the top by this amount. The next option here is end of member. So you can choose how you want to end the member. You can either end it where the line ends, you can end it at the nearest intersected member, or extend to the closest member after the end of line. So that's why I'm going to create 3 different types, show you what those 3 look like. So the first one, we're going to keep it at force end. And you can choose to split the members and have staggered offsets as well. I don't want to do that. I want to create clips, and I want to add clips, and I want to create holes. So you can insert clips and set up your clip settings. So here I'm going to select that setting and make sure that it's set up the way I want. Since I copied the sample, that's why it looks like this. But you can also just select all the members. You can choose how you want it to attach on the hard side, attach to the hard side of the stud to the hard side of the member, of the horizontal member. And then you can go ahead and hit add, and you'll see that member over here. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And then you can choose if you want to add punch outs or not. So I'm going to add punch outs, and I'm going to tell it to not punch end members. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and just hit add over here. So we can add that setting over here. Okay. So I'm going to create multiples of this because I just want to show you what these other options do. So if I come here, force end, and then I'm going to change this to stop at nearest. So I'm going to just change this to be called stop near and hit add. All the other settings are the same. Nothing changes except for this. And we're going to extend to closest. So we'll just call this extend, and we'll hit add. Okay. All of them are using the exact same settings, just that value is different. Okay. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And then over here, we can choose the configuration we want. We can only choose one right now. So we're going to choose horizontal 162T 125-33 and force end. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And you'll see that there's 2 lines created. So for marker lines, what you could do is you can copy your lines so that you can copy it from one wall to another. And only thing you cannot do with, or you should not do with marker lines, is split them. Because if you split them, the second marker line gets a different element ID, and it kind of breaks its connection with MWS. So if you want, you can copy them, you can trim the marker lines, but never split them. Okay. So that's basically how this looks. And you'll notice that there's no members placed, but that's fine. For now, what we're going to do is I want this very top line. I want that one to be force end. So since it's already set up to force end, we're going to leave that alone. The second line here, I want this one to be stop nearest, and we're going to choose that one and hit OK. And then over here, the very third one, we're going to again go into the properties of it, and we're going to change it to extend to closest, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK. So before I regenerate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these lines so you can see the differences between all those options right when we regenerate. So I'm going to just quickly draw a line, so detail line. Oh, I might actually have to, let's do it this way. I might just cut it back like so, okay? And just have all of them end at the same point. Same thing with the ends over here. I'm gonna just have that end here, end here, and end here. Okay? So we're gonna do it this way. And now when I regenerate, you'll see the differences between all three. Okay, so this one, since it says force end, wherever the line ended, if I EH this, wherever the line ended, the member ended, okay? And over here, even though the line extended, since it was set to stop at nearest, this was the nearest intersected member, so it stopped at the nearest intersected member. And for this one, the line ended here, but it extended to the, it was set to extend to the closest stud, okay? So that's basically how you can do this with horizontal marker lines. So again, we're going to go into bracing and try to do the same thing for our diagonal marker line. So for this, we're going to go into our section. I'm just going to go ahead and modify this view really quickly. And make my walls transparent. There you go, so you can see all the members. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the line over here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just go ahead and filter it out. Okay, so I'm going to copy this from this wall to another wall. So this wall, I'm going to go ahead and copy it over here. That's fine. And now I'm going to try to convert this horizontal blocking into a diagonal. So all I have to do is align the line. Maybe if I want to do it for staircases, I can align the line to go from here maybe, or here maybe, all the way to here. Or if I don't want it to be at a stud, I can just have it end short here as well. And then basically, I want to convert this one from a horizontal bracing to a diagonal bracing and use the diagonal bracing line. So I'm going to go into properties. And again, we're going to go into manage over here. And we are going to select force end over here. And we're going to just replace horizontal to be diagonal. And in order for MWF to consider it a diagonal bracing, we need to change its designation to be diagonal brace over here. And then over here for the line style, I'm going to make it 00 diagonal bracing. Okay, everything else is the same, nothing's changing. I don't want to add clips or punch holes with the diagonal brace. I'm just going to go ahead and hit add over here. And you'll see we have our diagonal brace created with all of these settings. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And instead of this blocking type, we're going to use the diagonal brace blocking type. Go ahead and hit OK. And you'll see that our line style changes based on the line style that I set up for the diagonal brace, or I chose for the diagonal brace. So we'll go ahead, oh, sorry, not properties. We'll go ahead and regenerate this wall. And there you go. You'll see that we got our braces added in. Okay, so you'll see over here we have our line and we have the brace added in. Now, if I wanted to extend it or shrink it, all I have to do is select that line, have it extend wherever I want it to go, and I just have to regenerate the wall panel, and it will extend to wherever I told it to. Okay, so there you go. And that's it for today's webinar. Feel free to ask questions if you have any.
Ready, thank you, Aparna, for that presentation. And as she mentioned, we'll open the floor for your questions. And I see that we already have one from James Papa. So I'm going to read that. Can 3-inch wide metal flat straps be used instead of studs for diagonal bracing on wall panel faces?
Yes, definitely. If you have the family for a flat plate or a flat strap, feel free to load that in and use that in for diagonal braces, or actually any of the tools that we've talked about. As long as it's the structural framing family, you should be totally fine with adding that in.
This is your question. And as we wait for more questions to pop in the meantime, I'd like to invite you to visit our LinkedIn channel at linkedin.com/company/Struxoft Solutions, where you can find weekly instructional content, articles about trending topics, company news, and also where you can view the recorded version of this webinar. Just going to wait a few more seconds to see if any last-minute questions happen to pop in. All right, that's a wrap for today. If you had any questions about this presentation or would like to set up a one-on-one demonstration to learn about how our features can impact your projects, then do feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording of this webinar tomorrow via email. And having said that, I'd like to thank you once again for joining us today, and we do hope you have a great day ahead.